studios. This is After 9 with Scott and Kat.
Hey now!
Hello, happy Monday.
How are you, Kat?
I'm really good, thank you. You?
Good. I had a great weekend, by the way. It was, I used my pool. That doesn't happen very often.
I know, which isn't that always the way? You like people who don't have a pool are like, I wish I had a pool today. And then the people who have a pool don't really use their pool that often.
That's the thing, and it drives people who don't have a pool but wish they had a pool batshit crazy.
Batshit crazy.
You have a pool and you never use it, and I
Right.
want a pool and don't have one. I know, I hear it all the time. The problem is pools require a decent amount of upkeep, and by the time I carve out time to vacuum it and scrub the walls and clean the dead mice out of the skimmer.
No.
Just in case my girlfriend's listening, we don't actually have any dead mice in the skimmer. That never happens.
He made it up.
I
He's
made that up,
pretending.
yeah.
He's so funny.
Look at me over embellishing again. So anyway, by the time you get done, you're just kind of like, I'll just sit here and have a beer and look at the pool now that it's all clean.
That's how much work it is sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of beer, by the way, beer is plentiful here in Ontario, and that's great. This weekend, I was at a couple of different grocery stores, and wow, we have ransacked that wine section.
Yeah.
It was like empty in certain stores.
It's part ransacking and part they were unable to get a lot of supply in. And I don't know if that was strike related with people who are striking had a way to stop it from getting to the store. I don't know what the answer is, but thankfully it's not even going to be an issue soon enough this week, in fact.
We are going to talk about the LCBO, the end of the strike. That's going to come up toward the end of this episode. We're also going to have today's missed connections from the Scott and Kat radio show at the end of the episode. But we're going to warn you, it's going to be a little bit shorter today only because we have a meeting.
We do.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks a lot. It's great. So we'll start off with what I think is the story that had most people talking. I had a family gathering yesterday in the backyard, and that's when the news came down. Joe Biden has stepped out of the presidential race. And I thought, well, we all knew that was coming. And it was weird to watch different faces because you can tell those who are on X and those who are not. The ones who are not, namely the older folks, were like, oh my God, Joe Biden stepped down. He's not going to run for president anymore. Everybody on X is like, yeah, they've been saying that since Thursday.
The rumblings have been there.
Late last week, it was rumored that Joe Biden might withdraw from the race. But Joe Biden's camp kept saying, no, he's in. He is the nominee. He's running for president. Everybody's just got to accept it. His age doesn't matter. They said he's sharp as a tack. That's what they said. And he's going to run. And then he pulled out yesterday.
Yeah.
It was rumored that he was going to step down on Sunday, and he did. What wasn't expected, though, what I'm going to call the X factor here, and what's going to make it awkward over the next few weeks or months, is it was initially reported Joe Biden wasn't going to endorse anyone. He was going to step down and say the party can select whatever nominee they want now. But he didn't just make an endorsement. He gave a big endorsement for none other than current Vice President Kamala Harris.
I think that, to be very honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
No kidding, Kamala. No kidding.
To say the least. Indeed. I mean,
people accuse Trudeau of making a word salad. She's like a chef at that sort of shit.
Really? See, and I never listened to her speeches. I guess we're going to hear a lot more from her, understandably. So I was really curious how this is going to go because I know that it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, right? I mean, she's definitely the front runner, but there could be more people than we know as we record this pod anyway that will be running.
Yeah. So here's the way I see this going down. Number one, Joe Biden, as of Friday, the last time we saw him, and nobody has seen him, by the way. Apparently, he's still in isolation at his home in Delaware because of the COVID. But the doctors say he's getting better. Okay, fine.
He didn't do a video speech or anything, correct? It was just by...
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's an important thing, Kat. I'm going to come back to that. But here's the way I see it. Biden, I don't think wanted to drop out of this race. I think for years, his people have been sort of sheltering him from mainstream America and just sort of telling him what he wants to hear. And in some cases, that's what you do with the CEO. You just tell them what they want to hear, and then they go on with their day and they leave you alone to do your actual work. But in this case, I don't think it helped. I think Joe Biden is shocked to hear that he's not popular. I don't think it ever really crossed his mind that he might not be popular. He just won the Democratic primary. Maybe I should explain what the primaries are for those who don't know. In America, they've got a different system for nominating their candidates. Each state holds a primary. It's like a mini election, but it's not Democrat versus Republican. It's Democrat versus Democrat versus Democrat, and Republican versus Republican versus Republican.
You vote in who you want to represent that party.
That's right. And that's why you always hear about things like the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primaries and all this sort of shit. So you go through the primary process, and each state is worth a certain number of points. When you get to the convention, the Republicans had theirs last week. The Democrats is coming up. That's when whoever got the most points accepts the nomination, and then they announce who they want to be their vice presidential pick. That's usually how it works. In this case, America did it. They already went through all the voting. They chose Joe Biden. Joseph R. Biden is going to be our candidate. And up until late last week, everybody was still insisting, oh, this guy's great. Oh, he's our guy. And then just like that, he drops out of the race. So the powers that be, whomever that is, in this case, we'll assume it's the delegates who are going to go to the Democratic convention. They're going to vote at the convention on who is going to be the nominee. It usually doesn't happen like that. Usually these things are predetermined. You know before the convention starts who had the most points. But now they're likely going to have to do what's called an open convention, meaning anybody can put their name forward. And one of two things is going to happen here. This could get very, very nice for Kamala Harris. If everybody agrees with Joe Biden, when he endorsed Kamala Harris, that wasn't supposed to happen. We heard he was going to step down yesterday. We also heard he wasn't going to endorse anybody. But he did endorse Kamala Harris, which makes it a little awkward for the rest of the party. Because if Kamala is the crowned candidate from the current president, and she served as vice president all along, it makes sense that she would be the nominee. But A, there's a lot of people who think she can't win because she is running on the exact same record that Joe Biden had. Kamala was right there with Joe when Joe did some of the things that are very unpopular, like opening up the borders, letting crime get out of control, all that sort of stuff. They have the exact same problems in America as we have in Canada. So there's some people who feel Kamala can't win. She's also got a lot of baggage. There's some pretty awkward interview clips out there, like we just played a second ago. It's not ideal. But Biden chose her. She's also, and let's not forget this, the first woman of color to run for president of the United States. She could actually be the first woman elected president of the United States because, as we know, Hillary Clinton ran and did not win.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton's crying somewhere.
Hillary Clinton, though, right after Joe Biden said he's out and he endorses Kamala Harris, Hillary and Bill Clinton both came out right away. Yes, 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 we endorse Kamala Harris as well. Great pick, Joe Biden. Good for you. Kamala's our woman. There's nothing from Obama yet.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
As much as the Clintons still have a lot of control and effect on the Democratic Party, it's Barack Obama's party. Barack Obama is still a very popular former president, and he's a Democrat. He's right up there at the top.
Can he run again?
He can't.
He cannot.
No, 2 terms.
He did 8.
He did 8
He did
years.
8 years. So a question for you about the money. You'll know the answer to this because I saw somewhere that the only reason why he's putting forth Kamala is because they can't spend the money with anyone else. The money that was raised for this presidential run was raised for Biden and Harris 2024. Nobody else can step in and replace them and take that money. Is that correct?
That's a great question. That would be up to the internal documents, the internal constitution of the Democratic Party. I don't know.
That's what I heard.
I do know, though, that if I had donated money to the Joe Biden presidential campaign before he dropped out, I'd want my money back.
You want a refund.
I want my fucking money back.
Well, think of all the time, too. I mean, you mentioned all the primaries and everything that they went through. What a waste What a waste. They obviously they didn't realize at the time that it would happen. But come on, there's an inkling. I mean, and you're absolutely right. There was rumblings. And then you're sitting there going, so we did all that shit for nothing?
Well, and this is the other thing, too, because it's the same talking points in America as it is in Canada. Right now, we've got the federal Liberals here in Canada. We'll try and tell you that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are an existential threat to democracy. They threaten our democracy because of their beliefs. That's what they want you to do. And they do the same thing in America. That's part of the reason that people got so riled up and somebody took a shot at Trump last week is they kept calling him a threat to democracy. Trump himself called that out this weekend. He said, they call me a threat to democracy. What did I ever do to democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy, and I'm still here. And he's right. I mean, the people in a democracy, the way things work is very similar. Maybe I'll go back to the beginning. When we were forming this great society that we have now, we all agreed that we needed a common set of rules. And those rules are simple. You can't murder somebody. You can't mow your lawn before 9 on a Saturday. All that sort of shit. We came up with all the rules of society, and we appointed police to enforce those rules and politicians to govern and create new rules. It's supposed to be that when the people have had enough of being governed by the particular government, they elect a different government. And it carries on from there. That's democracy. In this case, though, it's a little weird because the Americans already voted for Joe Biden. He got tens of millions of votes in the primary. Most of the time that he was running, most people, if you're being honest with yourself, can admit what Joe Biden is essentially admitting now, that Joe Biden's not up to the job. Cognitively, he's not all there.
Yeah, we all know it. That's the thing. It's like, and we can say that. I mean, some people might go, oh no, and disagree with it. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was very obvious. This is a man at the in the early stages, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to guess early. Maybe it's not even so early, right? Stages of something. And he needs to be taken care of. He can't be taking care of a nation. That's my opinion on it. Like, I don't get a vote, so I guess it doesn't matter what I say. But
a lot of people feel that way,
right?
Kat. Yeah. And I mean, what's frustrating here is the same people who just staged this coup to get rid of Joe Biden. George Clooney started it, and it spiraled on from there.
I wondered about George Scott. That's one of he wrote that entire, what was it, an essay?
Op-ed.
An op-ed, and it wasn't like... Yeah, it wasn't really kind to Joe Biden, for sure.
No.
And maybe was that purposely done to try to get some extra encouragement around him to also encourage Biden to step out? And would Clooney step in?
He might. So this open convention is going to be very interesting, and that's why I think it's also very curious that Barack Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris yet. But we'll come back to that. When it comes to the primaries and Joe Biden, the same people who set out to get rid of him in the last 2 weeks, ever since the debate, I guess, is when the push to get rid of Biden really began. These same people, if the polls were different now, would still be willing Joe Biden on. They'd still be saying Joe Biden is our guy. They only turned on him when it became obvious he was not going to beat Donald Trump. There was just no way. I mean, in America, there's what's called swing states. Sometimes they vote Democrat, sometimes they vote Republican. The rest of the states are pretty enshrined. They're either Democrat or Republican. They never change. But using those swing states as a barometer, you can usually get an idea of how the election's going. And Donald Trump is winning in like 15 swing states that Joe Biden would need to get elected. There's no path to victory for Joe Biden. There wasn't. So the Democrats got rid of the guy even after the members of the Democratic Party selected him. And they selected him because of the recommendation of these higher ups in the Democrat Party. So now you've got a situation where they've already voted. Biden won. So Biden's going to, on a technicality, say, I don't accept the nomination, which means they could start over again. They don't have time to do that. So now they're going to have an open convention. Open convention means anybody can run. It has never been easier to become president of the United States. Normally, if you want to, you got to form this exploratory committee that allows you to start raising money. Then you've got to go to those Iowa caucuses and get enough votes. Then you got to go off and do the New Hampshire primary and so on and so forth all across America and hope you've got the number of votes. In this case, you need to make one really convincing speech and hope that people vote for you at the convention. An endorsement from Barack Obama or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi, any of the senior Democrats in the party, would probably go a long way. Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the top 3 Democrats, none of them have endorsed Kamala Harris. But Joe Biden did. And she's the first woman of color to run for the presidency of the United States of America. This is something that Democrats traditionally support and encourage. People of color getting into politics and things like that.
Sure.
And it would be a woman president elected for the first time. Are the Democrats really going to turn on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's handpicked nominee and go with somebody else? Because there's a real threat here that this party is going to get ripped in two.
Well, that's why it begs the question of who else might be running and what else does potentially or did Obama know leading up to this? Now, some people are going to claim that he orchestrated blah, blah, blah. But like for me, whatever, like leave that out of it. But does Obama know? Like, I mean, I'll say Michelle Obama's name has also been thrown out there.
Sure it has.
And you can't go endorsing someone now in case. Could it be like a just in case factor of, oh, I don't know who else might put their name in there. Like maybe he truly is kind of not shocked by the fact that Joe Biden stepped aside. However, he might actually have not known this would happen for sure. So he's not going to go ahead and give his full tilt endorsement to Kamala, but then have to take it back later once he finds out, oh, but my wife's running, so I got to obviously endorse her. I mean, not to say Michelle would. That'd be cool. I mean, I'd like to see that. That would be an interesting run, at least for the Democratic Party. And who's best to go against Trump is really the question that they have to answer as that party, right? They have to answer who's the best to go against him. But Trump will say he doesn't give a fuck who's there. Like he's good. Oh, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. But I think it really does matter.
Well, it certainly does. Here's the problem now. They thought that Trump and J.D. Vance, his new vice presidential pick, they thought they were going to be campaigning against Biden's record. And you don't have to hate Joe Biden to hate his record. And his record in America is identical to Trudeau's record in Canada as far as job losses, mass immigration coming in, some of the more woke agenda items that have come up. All these things that people are upset about right now have got the polls the way the polls are. They don't like the Joe Biden administration by and large. He's only got like a 30 or 33% approval rating right now. That's not very good. So Trump running against Joe Biden's record is a matchup that Trump likes. But the Democrats now, they're smart. They found a way to completely circumvent the primary process by having Biden walk through it, skate through it unopposed, get the nomination, and then decline the nomination so that they can have this moment that we're about to have, an open convention where anybody could come forward. And before everybody knows what the fuck just happened, they've got a new nominee that might not be Kamala Harris. Now they've made the race about the person, not about the record. And if you run on Joe Biden's record, or if you run on a promise to continue the Biden policies, that's going to be very, very unpopular. But if you just come in, particularly as what would be seen as a political outsider, someone who's not part of the Washington establishment that we all see on the news every night, then you don't get saddled with Joe Biden's record. Kamala Harris will. If George Clooney runs, he won't.
He won't.
George Clooney can come in and say, oh, I don't really know much about politics, and pretend he doesn't, even though he's one of the major organizers for the party. He could come in and say, I don't know much about politics, but we're gonna be fair and compassionate, and we're gonna do this and do that. And people would be then in a position where they have to judge Trump based on everything that comes with Trump. Or a candidate with no record that they know from TV they kind of like.
It's a fresh new object for them, right? So yes, they definitely will have that, and that'll be a benefit for them. Who could it be? I mean, obviously there's going to be names in politics that people know that we don't know yet. Like the average person doesn't know yet. Of course, if you're very invested in it, you probably know a bunch of names. But for me, when it comes to the whole celebrity, and I'll use air quotes, but you know what I mean, that celebrity factor, there's been lots of celebrities who've been asked about it. Some are a little more coy. Some have said maybe one day, not today. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is one of them. I know Oprah has been asked before. George Clooney certainly has. And I don't know if he's full on addressed or said he would or wouldn't. But there's even going to be names I think that'll come up, even if it's just like hearsay, that we didn't even think about. Because like you said, this is kind of their moment. So I'm so curious to see how this goes. It might end up being something boring. Who knows, right?
It might be.
But I mean, give me a rock or give me an Obama, give me a I don't know, any number of celebrity, and it's going to get even more interesting, isn't it?
It will. And that's, I think that's the play. Put somebody up there who has no record, somebody who doesn't have to be saddled with the baggage of Biden and Harris from the last 4 years, and someone who, as a name, can compete with Donald Trump. I don't think it's an accident, or I don't think it's unintentional that Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and all those high-up Democrats have not endorsed Kamala Harris yet. And if it turns into Kamala's probably the one, but at the convention, who's behind the curtain? Oh, it's Michelle Obama. Oh, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think they're going to turn Kamala away because it's been 24 hours. My entire timeline is filled with video gaffes and stupid shit that Kamala Harris has said over the last 4 years. They're trying to shut her down before she even gets out of the gate. So I don't know what's going to happen, but God damn it, make some popcorn because this is about to get interesting.
It certainly is.
2 more things and then we'll go because we will get to the replay of Missed Connections. And as we promised, it'd be a slightly shorter episode today because we have an unfortunate meeting. This is a huge week for homeowners.
Yeah, another decrease is potentially happening on Wednesday.
The Bank of Canada, led by that son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem, is going to make an interest rate announcement on Wednesday. Most economists are expecting the bank to cut rates again. So we're in a situation now where they cut rates back in June, and they thought, shut these fucking middle classers up, give them a little quarter point cut, tell them, well, yeah, inflation's coming down, so it's a carrot and stick thing. Inflation comes down, so we'll lower the rates a little bit. Not even close to where they were, but it came down a little bit. It had no impact. If you talk to realtors, if you talk to mortgage advisors,
not a lot of movement.
Didn't do a thing to help the housing market, didn't do a thing to increase GDP, didn't do a thing to put more money in people's pockets. It's just not enough. So now they're in a situation where if they cut rates on Wednesday, they got to hope to hell that the Americans cut their rates the following week. Because if the Americans don't, and we're down again, our dollar is really going to start to take it on the chin. It'll be a very rapidly declining Canadian dollar. If they only cut it, say, a quarter point again, so that in total it's only gone down a half a point, it's not going to be enough. And I think that financial news is starting to come out that makes it look like our economy is a lot worse than they let on. A lot worse.
Yeah.
So they need to cut rates a substantial amount. They just got to thread the needle because if they go before the Americans too fast, our dollar is going to drop. And that creates a whole other set of problems.
Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens.
One more. The LCBO is getting ready to reopen tomorrow.
That's right. And not surprising that they had to come to some form of a deal because we knew that the one that was did they initially call it like, I guess they wouldn't have called it a deal breaker because it wasn't.
They more or less did. They said it was their number one issue.
They tried, but we knew it wasn't going to happen. So sure enough, you're going to get pre-mixes and all kinds of other shit in grocery stores. It's still coming to convenience stores. It's still happening. So once we knew that was for sure not changing, you had to come up with a deal. You had to figure it out. And I'm glad that they did. That's great.
It is the end of dry July. Over the weekend, the union accepted a new 3-year contract to end the LCBO strike. The workers are getting a small raise of 8% over 3 years. They're also going to get a guarantee, no store closures.
That's good. Well, and that's a big one because I think that they were very, and understandably, everyone would be afraid for their job, right? So if you can guarantee there's not going to be closure, then at least there's less job cuts than you fear that there may be.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to promise no store closures because you could just sell the store. I mean, this kind of leaves the door open still for what many people were calling for during the LCBO strike, full privatization.
It's a step.
It's a step.
Right? If that's your end goal, this was a step toward that end goal. That's what it is. And the worry, I understand where the worry comes in for their point of view is because look at a plaza. Like your average plaza in like your mid-sized city is going to have a grocery store, let's say with the LCBO, of course, is also going to have a grocery store and what else? Maybe a convenience store. You need 3 places that can sell all the same thing minus the spirits. Where does that leave the LCBO with less people coming through the door? less need, less desire. I mean, all those things are totally true. So I understand where they're coming from.
Sure. I never once thought that store closures were something seriously that staff needed to be worried about. I don't think anybody who works at the LCBO right now is really worried that it could be sold at any time.
They didn't say they guaranteed that job cuts wouldn't happen, though.
No. In fact, they didn't get really anything at all. 8% over 3 years is on the low side of the average public service increase. Okay. Many are saying, and you know what, if you're an LCBO worker, I get it. You're sick and tired of hearing it. But there's a lot of people who have had this discussion over the last 2 weeks while you guys were off saying, why would we give a raise to people who are essentially just retail workers? And while it is a government job, it doesn't matter. You're still just stocking shelves. Yeah. It's really no different than if you worked at Dollarama or a grocery store. Your job is to keep the shelves stocked and to ring people through.
Actually, and you get a lot of perks, too. I mean, there is a lot of perks that go along with that compared to a Dollarama, right? Where you're going to be open not as late, maybe. You're going to get those holidays off that you desire to have off, right?
Uh-huh. So they did not succeed in keeping canned cocktails at a grocery and convenience stores. That is going ahead. They have succeeded for now in keeping the LCBO as the exclusive retailer of spirits. But as you know, you can get beer just about everywhere now, including grocery stores. And soon you'll be able to get beer at convenience stores as well. So now we've got thousands of these LCBO stores across Ontario, which have a decent amount of competition from grocery retailers and convenience stores. But they've got the monopoly on liquor. I don't know. I don't know what the future of the LCBO holds. I am glad that during the strike, we were able to have a conversation about privatization. And that's just the way I feel that would be more profitable. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there that if the government sells the LCBO, they're going to lose $2.5 billion a year. Nothing could be further from the truth. The government still makes all their revenue. They just get rid of all the expenses of 10,000 employees and 3,000 stores across a massive province. That's a lot to maintain and a lot of money going out the door. If they just collected the tax revenue and some basic royalties for warehousing it, they would still make a great amount of money. And I think that we should continue going down that road, but it's not going to be today unless they make this an election issue. I wonder if that could ever be an election issue. When Bonnie Crombie finally gets her chance to run against Premier Doug Ford in Ontario, is she going to have the guts to say, we will never privatize the LCBO? Because I think that's the way this is going now. It's going to have to be a left versus right thing. Is Bonnie going to be the savior of the LCBO? Will she put her name on paper and commit? We will never privatize the LCBO. No privatization under my watch. Will she do that? Because I feel like Doug kind of wants that.
I feel like now you have to have a declaration on everything and have an opinion on everything, even though you may not know the answer if you're going to attempt to run.
I mean, I think it's good to have an idea of where you've got to go and how you get there and things like that. You don't just jump in the car and hopefully it goes to what you want. I think that it's, I don't think we've heard the last of the LCBO stuff.
No, of course not. But like I said, I think to me, this was a step. To me, this was a step in the direction that the Ford government definitely wants to go.
I think they want to have that fight too.
Yeah.
One last one. Did you see any of the video this weekend of the lines for people trying to get over to Toronto Island on the ferry?
No.
Okay, so
what the heck happened?
Toronto Island is a destination in the summertime, and I don't know why. Is it just because you can see the CN Tower over the water? Is it because you feel like you're in another country or something like that, like some tropical oasis? Or is it just something to do? There's a lot of people going over to Toronto Island, especially in the summer months, and the lineups for the ferry are so freaking long that it's taking people hours to get off the island and back to the mainland. So a very reasonable question has been proposed. Why don't we build a bridge? Why don't we build a bridge? Then we don't need big diesel ferries shuttling back and forth at all hours of the day and night.
And we get it. That's easier said than done. But still, wouldn't it be nice?
Maybe people are getting the wrong idea here. If you've never been to Toronto Island or seen the GTA, you can see it. It's not far. You could throw a baseball for how far the ferry actually travels. It's really not that far. Could we build a one-time only fixed pedestrian bridge that people walk across to get to the island?
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, I think, right?
Seems so simple. I don't know why we wouldn't do it. Why are we
man.
paying to put these boats
It's
back
true.
and forth?
It's true. And I mean, you could still have a ferry for those who need that for accessibility. Let's say, for example, and maybe it goes less, right? Maybe it's a ferry that only runs a couple times. I don't know what the answer is, but I know either way, it's expensive.
Okay, I'm going to do one more, and I only want 30 seconds max from you. An 81-year-old massage therapist from Brampton has been charged with sexually assaulting a client. Peel Regional Police say a female client was allegedly assaulted during a massage earlier this month. The man was arrested and charged with 1 count of sexual assault. Investigators say anyone who may have had a similar encounter at this Brampton clinic should contact police. Let me say one more time the opening line. An 81-year-old massage therapist from Brampton, Joe Biden's age, working actively as an RMT.
Okay, you Google it. Google it. Google it. Ready? Here's what you Google. Ready? Here's what you Google. Massage therapist near me. You know that instantly even pops up? Go ahead, start. You're going to find fucking thousands of results. Just take your pick. You want to go to Massage Addict? You want to go to a small clinic? You want to go to the one near the hospital? There's a bunch in every city.
And they're all around 81, right?
Why the fuck would you choose a choice to go to an 81-year-old man?
I don't know.
Who the fuck is doing that? Like, no, and hey, no offense to the, I don't even know how many senior massage therapists there are that we would possibly offend in saying this, but honest to fuck, who's going, you, old guy, you got what it takes. Get on, get up on this.
How those hands work.
Get up on that.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
get that in there.
Hey, lay down. I'm going to go put some arthritis cream on my hands, and then I'll be right back to rub you.
Wouldn't you feel bad? Like, I would, even if there was a able-bodied 81-year-old, I'd still be like, nah, I ain't doing that to you. Like, I'm not going to make you massage me. Your fingers are going to break or some shit. You're too brittle. Like, what the fuck?
Gotta go, everybody. Have a great day. We will leave you with the replay of today's Missed Connections, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow.
Bye, friends.
Missed Connections. Missed Connections on the Scott and Kat Show.
All right, everybody. Get ready. We're going to tell you some stories. These are stories about people who have had an encounter with someone else in the past, and they're looking for him now. So they told the story online. They're called Missed Connections, and we do them all the time right here on the Scott and Kat Show.
This one says, I was your Uber driver. It must have been a wild night. You left your fake bum in the car. At first, I thought it was a pillow. When you and your friends piled in the car after the night out, somebody asked me to play Hot in Here on repeat. It was a half-hour drive. It made you happy, though, so I guess it's my new favorite song, too. Not that new, though. Is
No.
it? When I dropped you off, it was like unloading a clown car. One tripped, the next one fell out right on top of her. You could have used that extra padding for that fall. It was so chaotic. Your butt must have fell off in the fall or just before that. There it was on the floor of the car when I went to do my nightly cleanup. So I just want you to know you left your butt in the back. Mm-hmm. I did message your friend's account, but no reply. Please reach out and I'll give you your butt back. I only tried it on one time, so it's still pretty clean.
How does the pretty clean? Great. How does the butt come off? Like, do you put it on like a belt and then put your jeans on?
Well, I didn't think of it as a belt. I thought maybe you had to wear did you have to wear a certain undergarment or tight enough clothes to keep the butt positioned on the butt?
There must be something to keep the butt fastened. Now, when you take it off, and I assume that happens at the end of a drunken stupor, long night in the club, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sure, you say, I'm going to take my butt off for a little bit because I've been hauling this thing around for a long time.
I've been dropping this one to the floor like nonstop all night. It needs a rest.
Maybe that's why it's mainly clean. A little too much time scraping the floor at the club. So, left the butt in the car, and it sounds like it was a real mess getting out of the car. People falling out, stumbling out, the whole 9 yards. Dying to know what they were celebrating. What'd you girls get up to? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
That's your question?
That's what I want to know.
I have way more butt questions.
And I have butt questions too. But I don't know. that it's going to be all that scandalous a story. Some people are going to the gym trying to get that butt. Some people are doing the surgeries. Other people just buy butt.
Is there butt glue? Butt tape?
Butt
There's
tape.
boob tape. There could be butt tape.
Presumably.
Can you use boob tape for butt tape? I have questions.
Yeah, I think it's a distinct possibility.
Well, this work computer is about to get a Google search history it doesn't want. This next one is called Love Washed Away. Hey, sexy lady. Something unfortunate happened after our chance encounter at the beach last Sunday. I really liked your flow. It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, strange thing.
I don't like
when
it.
people do that.
I don't like it. You and your girls challenged me and my buds to a game of frisbee. You were sipping on something in a solo cup while playing at the same time, and it was super impressive. You said you had your own business selling candles, and I think your name was Rebecca or Becky or something with a Beck. Anyway, I got your number, but you wrote it in the sand. I thought it was a cute, cheeky gesture. I was so busy watching you walk away, I didn't take a picture of it or anything, and along came a wave. It was gone.
This is the problem with writing communication at the beach and the sand is the water takes it away.
Do you know how many people have a candle business named Rebecca and Becky and Bex and Beck? I was Googling like crazy and I might have to give up, but dang, that was a fun day.
Hey, this guy remembers all the other details except her name or how to contact her. He knows what she does, knows what she's into, pretty good frisbee player. Yeah, everything else is a blur after that.
Do you think she did it on purpose, though? Like, I'm trying to get into her mind for a second. Like, yeah, this is fun. Oh, let me write my name right here by the water. It's going to come crashing away.
There must have been some interest. They challenged the guys to a little game of frisbee on the beach. You don't do that with somebody you're not even a little bit interested in, do you?
Yeah.
Really?
It's just,
okay.
It's called a fling, Scott.
Oh.
It's called a summer fling.
But you don't want them to have your number in that case.
No. Leave
Right.
it on the beach.
Right. Let's let nature take its course, right?
Leave your butt in the car and your number on the beach.
If it was the same girl, that'd be amazing.
Amazing.
I don't know how that frisbee game would have gone, though.
Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. It works.
There's a whole song about it. Missed connections